Hey guys, so if you've ever seen or read or watched some of my stuff, I love food. And, you know, overcoming an eating disorder has really reinvigorated my love for food and becoming a mom and being able to cook for my kids and my husband. Anyway, so here are 5 food and cooking hacks that I totally forgot my mom had taught me and I actually learned from her. I'd like to give her credit. So Asian moms are like magicians in the kitchen, right? Like they cook up a storm without the thunder and lightning. They're like they're like magicians in the kitchen. And so these are some things that I've learned from my mom that I hope that will help you if you're, just started to cook, or maybe you just want a couple of tips from a fellow Asian mom. So I've got 2 kids, and my husband, he has the stomach the size of a basketball player's, even though inside he's like this tiny Chinese man. So I cook a lot. And so one day I was restocking my pantry and I realized that I had basically cloned my childhood pantry into my own. And basically all my childhood tastes and flavors were inside my household and I didn't even know it. And who did all the cooking when I was growing up? Mainly my mom. And so here's an ode to her with some recipes that are included. Like that Chinese song that I remember listening to as a kid. Did you ever watch this show? It's like, okay, totally not a sidebar, but it's about the song In This World Only Mama Is Good. I think it's like Sai Sun Ji Yo Mama Ho, or I'm gonna totally butcher the Mandarin, but it's like Xi Shen Ji Yo Mama Hao. Xi Shen Ji Yo Mama Hao. Anyway, so that song always hits home for me because I remember when I was a little kid, there was this movie, and I swear to God, it's like a Hong Kong movie. And if you remember what the name of that movie is, please let me know. But we would watch it, and it's about this like really fat man, and he lived with his mom like for a really long time, and basically his mom dies and he starts hitting himself in the head with bottles and he starts singing this song. And that movie, me and my sisters would just like bawl whenever that scene came on. Like it was just so heart-wrenching to watch, and him singing that song. Anyway, so if you know that movie, let me know. I forgot what that, it's like, I swear to God, it's like this large fat man and his mom dies and his mom's taking care of him basically his whole life. So anyway, so here are the 5 tips. The first one, I call it the COP, C-O-P. And it stands for carrots or celery, carrot or celery, onions and potatoes. So root vegetables, if you are a chef or a little amateur cook like cook at home chef like I am, root vegetables are pretty hardy and they can stay in your crisper in your fridge for a pretty long time before they kind of start to whittle and get all gross. So I always have these 3, whether it's carrots and celery. I'll talk about celery in a minute. Onions and potatoes in my fridge because it's just a really great way to bulk up your dish with some vitamins and some fiber. So I put a slash between carrots or celery because for some reason right now celery is ridiculously expensive. Like I think there's some sort of recent health craze about celery, about it can like solve everyone's problems and like it's like this magical food that no one's like totally forgot about, like skin issues, celery, high blood pressure, celery. You can't sleep, have some celery. You have a horrible boss, eat some celery or kill them. Anyway, so I think the high demand of celery drove the price up for some reason, like the supply and demand economics, blah, blah, blah. So they haven't been cheap lately, so I haven't been buying them. It hasn't been in my fridge. And so I only do buy it when it's on sale, like less than 99 cents a pound. Like this is Canadian dollars, okay? But when my mom was raising us, celery was actually pretty cheap, so she always had that in the fridge. Anyway, sidebar, like if anyone knows what's going on with celery, like is it inflation, is it the weather, is it like some sort of GMO thing that's made celery so expensive? Let me know what's the economics of celery and the history behind that. I'd love to know. Anyway, so my mom is the queen of vegetables. Like she is known for prioritizing her health, and honestly that's something that I really strive for as a mom myself, really prioritizing my health. so that, I can be mentally, physically, and emotionally good and balanced for my kids. So my mom's a health conscious nut. Like, she's a health nut. Like, when I was a teenager, I'd be chilling, watching TV, and she'd come home like having spent like an hour at the gym and and a hard day work as a seamstress. So she loves to work out. Like, so now she's retired. She prides herself in taking 4-hour-long siestas, where she goes to the local rec center, and it's like, this is like this. She'll go to there's like gyms, right? She'll start on the treadmill, then to the elliptical, then work her way through like 10 different weight machines. If you ever see her, she's got like the V-shaped back that like a lot of dudes envy. She like does her lat pull downs, So after she'll do that, then she'll like cool off, go to the pool to like do some laps, breaststroke only, because then her hair won't get wet and like all the chemicals won't touch her hair. And then after, a few laps in the pool, then she'll head off to the sauna. Possibly getting hit on by some like 40-something-year-olds. Like, she's told me some dudes have asked her like, hey, you want to get a coffee after this? Anyway, and this is dripping wet with sweat. And then she'll come back out, do another couple laps, and then she'll like cool down or whatever, relax in the hot tub while like massaging her leg muscles. So that's like just like another Monday for a grandma in her late 60s. So she's a health nut. She really prioritized her health. But when I was growing up, she loved hiding vegetables in everything we ate. It was never just like mapo tofu with like ground pork and tofu. It was like ground pork and tofu plus carrots, onions, celeries, mushrooms, peas, like everything she could possibly add in there without being too much of a veggie dish. And it was never just curry chicken. It was never just galagai. It was like galagai with yanchong and like onions, carrots, celery, and potatoes. And of course, when she'd make her own wonton, like her wontons, it wasn't just pork and shrimp, like you get at the restaurant. She'd add minced up onions and minced up celery, minced up carrots. And so like many immigrant parents or immigrant families like my parents, really struggled to survive, right? And to make ends meet. They had 3 kids. And my mom knew that meat was the most expensive, and compared to, rice or bread or potatoes and vegetables. So she wanted her kids to have a healthy diet because she prided herself in that. And a little story that I've talked about before is that my grandma, my mom's mom, passed away at 55 from a stroke. And so that really that's really what motivates my mom to be healthy. Anyway, so over time, like as a mom, when she was raising us, she realized that cut veggies, like carrots, celery, onions, and potatoes, are actually the most affordable, and they last a long time in the fridge, so you can kind of bulk buy them. So she always made sure her fridge was stocked up, and it's a great way for her to nourish her family in as economical and as nutritious as possible. And so like this was just part of my diet growing up, like these cut veggies. And so when I started my own family, I just unknowingly started buying carrots, onions, potatoes, and celery, and put that on my grocery list. And whenever I open my fridge and I see there's like 1 carrot left or 1 potato or like half or no onions, I feel this like urge, this like need to replenish my stock. It's like, Pavlov's dog. My tongue just starts to drool. And so having grown up with these flavors of, carrots, onions, and potatoes, it's really influenced the way I cook. And I can splurge for those expensive vegetables like radicchio and asparagus and fennel and radishes and rutabaga, and I do when they're on sale. Like, they're a great way to add flavors to your dishes. But you know what? Cop is a regular thing in my household. So number 2, the second food and cooking hack that my mom instilled in me, and I learned from her that I totally didn't realize it, is called just ding yeet it, which is like the power of the microwave. So ding is like, the sound that the microwave makes when it's done, and then yeet is hot, or just make it hot, is hot in Cantonese. And And so my mom would often say, you know, just 띵니커, right? Not just for leftovers, but a slew of other things that she would make in the microwave. And so my mom pretty much worked my entire childhood. Like, she took some time to raise my sisters, but by the time I was in kindergarten, when I started kindergarten, that's when she just started working. She worked part-time pretty much my whole childhood. And so, side note, did you know? She actually made me start kindergarten a year early so that she could work early, because my birthday's in January and she thought she could sneak me in. But the school found out, and then I had to repeat kindergarten all over again. So like, do I resent her for that? For not anymore. But when you repeat kindergarten, like, you get kind of confused. You're like, hey, wow, how come my friends are like in grade 1? Like, I'm still in this room. What's going on anyway? She loved working because she really valued making her own money and not depending on my dad for things that she wanted to buy. You know, she didn't like him questioning her purchases, like, oh, what did you get here? And of course, you know, the whole dependence on a man, she did not like that. And so she worked. But she was also responsible for making dinner, so they had to be quick and easy. You ever watch like Martin Yan, like that, the Chinese, I think it's Canadian chef that would talk about quick and easy dinners? Anyway, so, and one of my favorite dishes that she would make was a microwave chicken. Like, and so she'd buy whole chickens, you know, because as you know, buying whole chickens are actually cheaper than buying its parts. Like the sum of, what is it? Like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Anyway, so she'd buy these whole chickens, marinate them with like soy sauce, sugar, green onions, some garlic and ginger and oil, and then she put them in a bag and freeze them. And then on days that she knew that she was going to be really busy, she'd take that chicken out the night before, and it would defrost by the time she came home from dinner, and then she'd just pop it in the microwave for like 30 minutes or something like that. And while she does that, she'll cook the vegetables, and, you know, rice was probably made already. Like, either I had come home to make it, or my sisters, or my dad. So, you know, the rice would have been done, and then there you go. Voila, dinner is served. And so since then, like, the microwave is like my best friend. Like, seriously, if you only use it to reheat your meals, like, that's like, you're amateur, man. Like, you can use it to cook a lot of things. You can cook noodles, like from dried noodles, fresh noodles, obviously, frozen noodles. You can make soups, you can make eggs, you can cook your fish balls, defrost, you know, all the different things that you froze. You can cook vegetables, and pretty much, like, one of the things I love about the microwave is that while I'm cooking, I use it to preheat a bunch of stuff, so that by the time it goes into my wok or my pot or whatever, it's already like pretty much warmed up. So speaking of freezing, number 3, my third cooking tip that I got from my mom that I didn't realize is called freeze baby. You know, like ice baby. So my first best friend is the microwave, and my second best friend is my deep freezer. So my parents, when I was growing up, actually have 3 freezers. They have one deep freezer. They've got like a mini fridge that has a freezer, and then they got the regular fridge with their freezer. Like, maybe it's their like survival instincts, or just, I don't know what it is, but they always had food in the house, whether it was canned, frozen, dried, jarred, whatever, you know, like it's always stocked and ready to go. Like, you could never go in the house with like no food in there. So in addition to marinating whole chickens that my mom did, she'd also loved, and then freezing them, she'd also loved freezing cooked meals. Like, she'd make meatballs, you know, cook them in the microwave, and then freeze them. And then, like, you know, like on a Friday night when we could actually we don't have to eat like Chinese food, she'd make pasta, throw the meatball, like the frozen meatballs, into the pasta sauce, and then you've got dinner. And one of the things that my parents did was they always went grocery shopping on Saturdays, while me, like my sisters and I, went to Chinese school. And so they would, like, because Chinatown here actually back in the day had one of the little markets there had the cheapest vegetables that you can buy. So they would always stock up there. And then when we'd come home, it was like time to fanyo, which is like split the meat. Like, they'd buy like big like portions of ground pork and chicken, you know, like buy more, save more, right? And then they'd split them into like little bags, flatten them out. Like if it's ground pork, they flatten into those little things, and so it's easier to defrost. But when my husband and I moved out of our small downtown apartment into like our current home, like one of the first things that I do, but we bought was a deep freezer. And like every time it's like half empty, I just feel like, oh my God, we gotta put stuff in there. I don't know. But one thing that I've kind of upgraded from my mom, and my mom didn't do, is freeze vegetables. And so a little tip for you guys, cauliflower has been like kind of an expensive vegetable lately. I don't know, like it went up, skyrocketed to like $7 a head or something like that. But anyway, when they are cheap, like $2 a head or less, here's a tip, like put them in the freezer, you know, and when you like have nothing, no vegetables in the fridge, you can defrost those babies, wash them, you know, rough cut the whole thing, and it's been frozen, so it's like kind of like partially cooked, not cooked, but like it's more soft. And then you can just don't throw the leaves away. Like cauliflower leaves, yummy. Rough chop the baby up, and then you can throw it into soups. You can throw it into mashed potatoes. You can throw in like congee. Like kids won't even know they're eating cauliflower. Like cauliflower is one of those like really, it's really neutral. Like, I mean, it's a cruciferous vegetable, so you've got kind of a little bit bitterness, but if you mix it with a bunch of stuff, it's actually really yummy. You can also put it into stir fry, and just, you know, it's so versatile. If you guys ever had kabocha squash, it's like a Japanese squash that is just so delicious. You can wash that, cut it up into chunks, and freeze that. Yam, zucchini, pretty much any hearty vegetables that are on sale. Like, you know, especially, and when things are on sale, it's often in season as well, which is great, local in season. And then you just cut them up, like wash them, cut them up, and then freeze them. And then, like, you know, like you can just, in a winter day, you're like, oh my God, I need some whatever. You can just grab your yams out or your zucchinis and then just throw them into a pot or into a stir fry. So tip number 4, it's called Now Walk It Out, Walk It Out. My mom and her walk are like dance partners, you know, like every time she'd use the walk, she's like 5 feet or less. I don't even know, like she shrunk over the years. She'd wear her platform slippers that she got from, I don't know, like some Chinese store. They're like 2 inches high, and then she'd wear them because she's too short to get like a good grip on her walk. So she'd wear her platform shoes, you know, and then, you know, turn on the kitchen hood, right, the Tohei scene thing, and then turn on the stove with her walk on, and she'd spin around and prep her vegetables. And then you have to wait until the wok is hot, and you pour the cold oil in, and then you gotta throw the ginger and the garlic to explode, you know, like bao yo. And then you toss in the onions and whatever meat or vegetable that she's prepped. And then, you know, like psst, like crack, pop, like all that sounds. And so that sizzling sound and the smell would just like waft through our house, and I would smell it and I would hear it, and I'd just be like so excited to find out what's for dinner that night. And so for me, like, I use my wok pretty much for anything. Like, have you ever tried boiling noodles in it? I think David Chang did an Instagram video on that. Like, you can totally easily boil spaghetti in this like lovely wok. I mean, it's like the curved size and the lid, you know, you have more surface area and volume, so you can really cook a lot of food. And I'm sure there's like a science behind it, and like the Chinese like think of everything, right? Like something to do with the convection steam that allows the thing to cook really quickly because it's all about efficiency. And so one of my favorite things to make in my wok is steamed ground pork and Chinese mushroom, like so donggu, and it's like a steamed patty thing. And so my mom used to make this all the time as well, but I totally kicked it up a notch. And here's like a little recipe, and it's in my actual blog post. So you use about like 7 to 10 Chinese mushrooms, and you gotta soak them in water until they're soft. It probably takes a couple hours. You kind of have to prepare a little bit beforehand, and then you gotta chop them up into little cubes. And then you get like the ingredients, you know, your pound of ground pork, some get your pork out, you pour in some soy sauce, drizzle it a couple times. I usually do a few circles. You know, some hoisin sauce for some flavor, you know, like sweetness, and some salt. And then you got to do sugar. You have to put a few teaspoons of sugar in there, because pork has a little, it's like a very savory taste. You can eat the sugar to kind of sweeten it up. That's why it's like pork and apples always work really well, or pork and fruit. Anyway, I put a nice big teaspoon of black bean garlic sauce, sauce, and then a few teaspoons of cornstarch to let it stick. And then for me, the thing that I added is ground flaxseed. And your kids and your husband, like no one wouldn't even know it's in there, but it's got great omega and fiber for your family. And then if you have an optional thing, is you can have a chopped up can of water chestnuts, which is great, like nice texture, like a little crunchiness in there. I like it. But lately, for some reason, I don't know why, but like water chestnuts have been really expensive, so I haven't been adding it to it. So what you do is you heat up the wok, you throw in like some frozen like yams or kabocha or whatever, like maybe like some of a squash on the bottom of the wok with some oil. And then you spread that meat and mushroom mixture on the top and just basically cook on medium heat, like maybe a little less than medium heat. Cover it up for like, I don't know, 30 minutes, because I usually go work out while this is cooking. And then by the time you're done, it's like, oh my God, you got your food. And so my mom, when she made it, she would actually put on one of those steaming racks and steam the thing. But for me, I like having those drippings, like the fat and the stuff, that go into my vegetables, so that it's really yummy and tasty. And it really keeps the flavor in more so than when you steam it. But that's just my preference. You can use a steaming rack instead if you like. And then the last tip that I learned from my mom that I didn't realize was set it and forget it. And like my mom's really, really resourceful and creative. Like she made a lot of soup, you know, like whether it's dessert or medicinal, and congee when we were growing up. So there'd be so many times when I'd be in the kitchen, you know, like whether I'm working on something, studying or reading, or just, you know, just chilling in the kitchen, and she'd be doing stuff in the kitchen. And then she'd tell me, hey, you know, when the pot, like watch the pot, if it starts to steam, turn the heat to low. And that's it. Like that I'd have to do that for her. And this is how resourceful she is that she'd tell me to do that, knowing that I would do it, and then she'd go off and do something for herself. You know, whether it's like going to dye her hair, or like she might leave and go for a hike. You know, she might do a face mask, or go shower, or, you know, go get a massage, or get a facial, or, you know, and go shopping or whatever. And then when she'd come back, like she'll do like a little quick stir of whatever the heck she was cooking, and then it's like it's piping hot and it's nutritious and delicious, and it's done. And so like that's something that I've done myself naturally. I followed suit, and I love making set it and forget it meals. From like soups, stews, casseroles. Slow cooking is like one of my favorite type of cooking, because you can just set it and forget it. And you don't need an Instapot to do this. Like you can just use a normal pot with like a lid, maybe. And if it doesn't have one of those lids with like a little hole on there, you can just like, you know, put a pair of chopsticks in between the lid and the pot, and you'll be fine. So here's kind of like a loose recipe for a Hong Kong style Russian borscht that I used to make, that I make. And it's like, if you ever go to a Hong Kong cafe, they always like, you get one of those set meals, and then one of the first things is like what kind of soup you want. It's either like a cream sauce, or a cream corn or cream chicken, whatever, or you can get the lossentong, which is the Russian borscht, and it's like Hong Kong style. So I don't think actually borscht is like this. Anyway, so here's a kind of like a recipe. It's also in my blog. I'll just talk about it here. And feel free to sub in actual beets, because I think traditionally Russian borscht has beets in it, but you know, like and they use beef instead of ham, like a beef shank or something like that, as like a stewing beef. For me, I often have ham bones in my freezer. We're more of like a ham than turkey people, but you know, that's so we always have ham. So a small head of cabbage, or like if you have a big one, just like chop it in like maybe half or 2/3, whatever, how much cabbage you like. 1 or 2 onions, you know what, like these disintegrate anyway. Some garlic cloves. Like garlic, you can put, I've I've put in 1, I've also put in 10. So it's like however garlic you want. A ham bone. So like I usually buy a big ass ham and then I chop up all the meat off and just leave the bone, and then I freeze the bone. I freeze a bunch of the meat too, but like the bone you can easily freeze in like one of those, like a Ziploc bag or whatever. A large can of tomatoes. So tomatoes are kind of expensive, like if it's not in season or you haven't grown them yourself. So I like to buy canned. And I remember when I was little, I loved watching Michael Smith, like Chef at Home. And he always says, you know what, canned vegetables are just, like especially tomatoes, and you can't get them all season, are just as good. So I often have canned tomatoes and as well as canned tomato paste in my pantry. So canned tomato paste, like a large can of tomatoes, whole, chopped, whatever, because it's all going to disintegrate anyway. Some salt and pepper, you know, whatever. White pepper if you have it, like the Chinese wuzu fan. And then a few spoonfuls of sugar, because you need to, like, the tomatoes can be a little bit salty. And you can have some herbs, like, I mean, whatever herbs you have, like you have dill, you have like oregano, you've got basil, whatever. Like I have a blend, it's all zabzi. It's like a Persian blend called zabzi that I got from, I don't even know, like a friend or whatever. So some herbs if you like. And then a couple of teaspoons of chicken powder or chicken stock. And then enough water to cover the ham bone. So you just literally just put everything in there. Frozen ham bone, your chopped up cabbage, your onions, and all that stuff, and just turn up the heat until it starts boiling, and then turn it down to like just before medium, maybe like a 3.5 out of 10, and just let it simmer for half an hour, like until basically you want the cabbage to be kind of like really soft, like soft enough for you to break with your spoon. Yeah, and just go and do some self-care, like do some yoga, like, and you know, and then when you come back, you open the lid and you can just smell that tomatoiness goodness. And then you can like go get one of those Chinese like sweet buns from T&T or whatever, and then there you go, you got a meal. Like personally, I kind of just like to eat like a big bowl of soup myself. So lastly, a little bit, like those are kind of the 5 cooking and food hacks. Really, the reason why I love cooking and I really love cooking for my family is because I want my kids to view food and cooking as love. You know, cooking is an art and a skill, and food is love, not just for the stomach, but it's for like your heart and your soul. Like it warms you up. And whenever someone's cooking or whenever someone's sharing a meal as a family, there's just like warm presence that comes, and food just does that. It's like that glue. And as you can tell from the looseness of the way I talk about my recipes, like I don't do recipes. So it's not something that I really care to pass down. It's more like I want to pass down to my kids that, like my mom's resourcefulness and creativity. And then my openness to try new things, like try new foods, which just can be tough for young kids because their palates are very sensitive. And then of course the technical skills to slice and dice and, you know, not be afraid of cutting vegetables. And then just like innate kind of natural ability to add certain ingredients, like whether it's salt, sugar, or whatever, or vinegar or ketchup or whatever, like they need to kind of fix a dish. Like when you taste it, you're like, it needs some sugar, or it's too salty, like add some water or whatever, right? And then also like that love and the passion to create things from scratch, you know, like being able to make a soup from scratch rather than opening a can and adding some water. And lastly, it's that love for food and family, and like they go hand in hand, and that when my kids grow up and they moved out and maybe have a family of their own, that they want to come back for my Russian borscht, or they'll come back for my ground pork and Chinese mushroom dish. Like, you know, that's what like I want them to preserve in their livelihoods. So I'd love to know, like, do you cook, or are you like crazy talented chef, or are you more just starting out? And what are some tips that your parents have ingrained in you? I'd love to know. Let me know.